I think we should get into all that.
No,
there's something we should talk about before we even start the podcast. And we'll include this in the podcast. But before we talk about the meat and bones of what happened in the XFL this week, let's discuss moxiecash.com, or as we like to point people to, xflshow.com/merch. Got some new shirts up there. Reid, do you understand the principle of the SpongeBob mocking me?
Are we gonna put all this in the podcast?
We are.
This might be a little too anti-baseball.
We're going to talk about this right now.
So we added a bunch of new shirts to the store. I'm really proud. We have we'll get into the Cardale Jones one, but we have the beer snake period, which I think which is awesome. Like, we have a hashtag Fire Vince shirt, which
we will talk about in a second.
Okay. And then today I added the SpongeBob mocking type. I listened to the XFL Markcast shirt where it's like capital and then lower and then capital. And I don't understand how it works. I just always think the text looks funny, and Paul sends it to me a lot.
Well, here's what happens. I think Reid does this to irritate me because he knows I know that he doesn't know how to use it right. So he just does it just to like.
No, I really don't. I think isn't it just to mock people?
Yeah, it's just like, like, for example, yesterday the Yankees lost. Well, I mean, Tuesday the Yankees lost. So someone could go on Twitter and say, I know the Yankees are going to win today. And when they lose, you respond with, I know the Yankees are going to win today. Okay. That's how you use it.
Okay. So I just use it as like making fun of people.
I was thinking about the way you used it, and you could basically use it like if someone asks you, do you listen to XFL Markcast? And you could respond with, do you listen to the XFL? Okay, it works. So I just thought of that right now. Okay. I'm going to give you credit. I'm sorry. I apologize. Make this a time that I'm going to apologize to you. Probably the only time on this podcast I'm going to apologize to you. But these shirts are really cool, especially Beer Snake and hashtag Fire Vince. Log on, xflshow.com/merch to grab those things. And we're going to start giving away coupons right here on the XFL Markcast for subscribing and rating, because we really want to boost our numbers. Please do so. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you.
And I swear, so ratethispodcast.com/XFL. We got the custom URL. It's a great site. I told you I would make one for your other podcasts, Willhausen and whatever else.
The one you hate.
But I'm serious. ratethispodcast.com/XFL, whatever. If you're on an iPhone, an Android, a desktop, a laptop, whatever, it knows where you're at. And so it shows you the appropriate, like if you're on an iPhone, it would show you Apple Podcasts or whatever. And it's really easy. But yeah, please review and subscribe to the podcast. It would be great. Really trying to get those numbers up. We've gotten a lot of great feedback on Twitter and YouTube. Really trying to get that Apple Podcast is kind of the main one we're trying to work on. But, we like the Android love too.
You were bringing up some people that had some podcasts that were ranked above us, like Young King 95. Who is Young King 95?
Yeah, if you go on the Apple Podcast store right now, it's kind of sad. And you search XFL, and there's not that many new XFL podcasts. So we really need to get those numbers up.
So before we even start talking about XFL, something just dropped in my lap before. What?
Oh, well, I was going to, okay, then preface. Yes, you can preface my preface. So please go. I want to see what dropped in your lap.
Something just dropped in my lap right now before we started recording. And since we're talking about hashtag Fire Vince, the shirt you can buy now on xflshow.com/merch. Got to plug this site every single time. 60 professional wrestlers' lawsuits were thrown out by a judge in Connecticut. Some of the people that were involved in this lawsuit were the estate of Jimmy Superfly Snuka, of course, Road Warrior Animal, Paul Orndorff, and the estate of King Kong Bundy. Of course, these wrestlers were claiming that they weren't being taken care of because their injuries and caused the concussions and the head issues. So basically, the judge, Vanessa Bryant, threw out the lawsuit, saying many of the claims were frivolous or filed after the state statute of limitations expired. Now, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, we got a lot of Vince news today. We got a lot of Vince stuff to go through. But
you don't want to talk about this at all then?
No, I think, Vince is got kind of a dirty past. And
I agree.
And, I think, as we'll get into later in the show with the Twitch controversy and with the Twitch controversy, and then him in the Forbes 400. There's a lot of Vince news today, but I think, what do you think? I mean, I think that Vince has kind of got whatever contracts you're signing with Vince. I think he's got it kind of locked down there.
Yeah, he's found a way to basically, and I mean, we've been critics of this for a while now. He's found a way to screw talent over for about 40 years now. No insurance, no, your employees, but you're not really employees. It's just it's all because he's trying to skirt the IRS. And the things you notice, the things that the talent goes through with the money they're paid, like they have to pay for their own planes and their rental cars and their hotel rooms. You have a developmental deal and you're like, oh, I get $250,000 a year for a developmental deal, but after taxes, then you got about 160, and then you've got road traveling costs, and it just, at the end of the day, like you're only really walking probably away with maybe $75,000 after all those costs.
And that's a ton of work for that. I mean, that's like 5 nights a week for that $70,000. I mean, people would say, oh, $70,000. But that's on the road 300 nights a year, not COVID time, obviously.
Yeah. And that's even including talking about like that's a basic developmental deal. That means you're not going to sell many shirts if you're on a developmental deal. So we don't have the option of, merch percentages, and even the merch percentages are bad. So this is standard operating procedure for the WWE, and I think it's going to come down to a point. And CM Punk tweeted this. I saw it from my other account because he blocked my verified account. That he said, "Hey talent." He basically said, "Hey talent, what are they going to do if you all stay on Twitch and Cameo? Are they going to really fire you all?" He's got a point.
Well, yeah, and that was kind of one of the main stories I wanted to talk about. And I guess we can lead into this before we get into the XFL stuff, is this whole, this week, or Vince said basically like wrestlers, anyone under WWE contracts are not able to use, Twitch and Cameo and all these other sites where, they do make a substantial amount of money, right? Especially, like Xavier Woods and all of them with their YouTube channel with the Up, Up, Down, Down, they have 1 million plus subscribers, but, and it's tricky because they're using, it's their hard work, but it's like the WWE owns the name. So, if Big E wants to go on and do what, remember I even look, it's like Edwin, what's his name? It's the weird,
Etwan or something like that. Yeah.
But, everyone wants to have, Big E on Cameo or Big E on Twitch or Big E on whatever, they don't want Etwan Edwin or whatever his name is. And so it's in the sticky point where these wrestlers and these talent are using, their blood, sweat, and tears to kind of make make a name for themselves, but WWE is like, why we own that, so you can't use that. So that was the huge controversy. We were talking about that with Dutch Mantel on Twitter too, where he was basically saying, I viewed it as, hey, you just kind of got to bend over and take it. And I don't think that that's, if you're someone like Dutch and you're out of the system and you've been through it, I think I would like to see people like that use their leverage and clout to help people, as opposed to just saying, well, that's just the way it is and you signed a contract. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think what this is a power play to have Vince dip his foot into your Cameo and Twitch money. That's what I think this is because, like, he doesn't want you going out and making your own merch, and he doesn't want you to, because I think that would solve a lot of problems. You could pay someone $250 a year and have them incur all the costs, but let them sell their own merch. If they're paying for a graphic designer to design their own shirts, let them sell their own merch then. That would make them money. The point is like the talent feels like they need to make more money, and I agree with that because they're incurring a lot of costs. I feel like this is a play for WWE to, based on the statement that they gave in response to this getting out, they said I'm paraphrasing again, they basically said they wanted to have something where they partnered with the WWE, basically go through corporate, have corporate WWE and Cameo get together, and then WWE can dip into that too. So it's just another way for Vince to make money. And honestly, I'm disgusted by it, but at the same time, if you want to stop it, give them health insurance and make them employees.
Well, and that's
incur their costs.
Well, and they were saying, that they want to basically have their own, like be able to host their own, not even through Cameo, to be able to host their own, like virtual events. And someone was saying that one wrestler did it and it was like, $200 and they got 5 minutes or something. I mean, but I think, they want to be able to launch their own thing. And as we've seen in the past when they've tried to do, like, it's like when WWE joined Twitter and it was like hashtags on everything for like, 6 months before they finally, then they make it like uncool. And then people go back to what they did the first time.
Well, if you remember correctly, back before when social media started coming out, like MySpace and stuff, WWE refused to allow their talent to get on social media sites. This was a true thing. They would not allow talent to have a MySpace account. They opened it up because they realized that that's an effective form of marketing, and so is this. They just want to have access to dip into the funds. And it's just another disgusting business tactic. And I'm not going to pull any punches here. I'm over this Vince stuff. I really am.
Well, yeah. And I mean, the whole idea of Vince's whole thing, with the XFL and with WWE is always, go out, grab the brass ring, do, like really make yourself a talent. And you look back at someone like Zack Ryder, he was one of the first that had his YouTube. Of this, I know we've met with Zack Ryder and had mixed opinions, but I remember back years ago, he had his YouTube channel, remember, and he had like his cousin would come on and he had like this
his dad.
Yeah, Zack Ryder's dad. But it was like he built this whole YouTube channel and he would get, million views on his videos. And then what did WWE do with all this new, hey, Zack Ryder's really popular. People like him. They brought him back and they fed him to Kane, buried him, we're going to partner him with John Cena. It's like, no, like Kane beat the crap out of him. And then that was it. And that's what he got for,
He was basically a bullet shield for John Cena.
Yeah, but that's what he got for 6 months with trying to grab the brass ring on his own, was he got buried and forgotten about, I mean, no one cares.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Vince says he wants people to grab the brass ring, but he won't allow you to grab the brass ring if he doesn't think you can handle the brass ring. No. Like Cesaro, same guy. I know you're not a fan, but he was over. He was mega over. Rusev, mega over. And that rumor is that's part of why this is going into effect, because Rusev's wife has the I think it's a Bang Energy or some kind of third party corporate sponsorship deal. This is really messy, and it seems that Vince is again out of touch. And honestly, there's a way to reform the entire corporate structure, but I think the Vince and the board is looking at the short end of it and going, we want the money now. We want all the money. We, blah, 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 blah. And the idea that they can just change their names to their real names and then there's no problems. That's not in the contract that says they own your likeness. That means your real name right now. You're stuck. You're screwed.
Yeah. Ask Cody Rhodes how all that went over.
Well, he can use it. He doesn't want to use it.
Well, now, but he couldn't for a while. He couldn't
for a while, but he can legally use the Rhodes name, but he doesn't want to.
Well, I wouldn't. I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, Cody Rhodes, his dad, Dusty Rhodes, famous wrestler, Cody Rhodes wrestled. That's his real name. And when he left and went and started his own wrestling promotion, WWE basically said, "Yeah, we own Cody Rhodes," even though that's his name.
His real name is Cody Runnels, but
that's his. I mean.
There's a case to be made that he's portrayed that character, Cody Rhodes, for his entire life. Because, I mean, even when you're Dusty's kid, you're not in the business and your name is Cody, you're basically Cody Rhodes. So you've been Cody Rhodes, despite your birth certificate government name being Cody Runnels, you've been Cody Rhodes since you came out the womb, and that's that. So there's a case to be made that he could go to a judge and be like, look at my dad. And the fact that Vince didn't really like Dusty. He didn't. No. He didn't like Dusty. We know this because the polka dot gimmick was a rib. And guess what? Dusty got it over because Dusty was a genius. I'm still a huge mega fan of what Dusty brought to the business. I know that sometimes he lost touch, but ultimately, he was, at the end of the day, he was a really smart, sharp guy when it came to promos, especially when it came to promos. So
he liked putting himself over, but yeah, he was a good time.
Yeah, he did that a lot. So what other Vince news did you have?
So before we get into everything, I've been chomping at the bit for this for the better part of 7 days now. You want to come in here, talk about all this wrestling talk. So we at the XFL Markcast have our very own first celebrity endorsement. What say you?
Wow. We do?
We do. And so you want to get into all this other stuff. So we have our very first, it came into my inbox, and I think we should play it. I'm going to try to play it. I'm not the biggest Zoom expert here, but we're going to try to play it, and then we'll give the backstory. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to play this, and I want to get your feedback.
Before we start, I want to point out that you kind of made fun of my equipment, and my equipment would be able to play this without any issue. Just going to point it out.
All right, we're going to see here. So we're going to share screen. Are you ready, Paul?
Yeah, I'm ready.
What's up, man? It's Cardale Jones. Hey, man, just want to say congrats on getting the XFL Markcast taking off, man, and take it easy now, dude. Try not to hurt yourself anymore. Thank you for being a fan of mine. Definitely my time in the XFL. Hopefully, I don't know, we'll see the thing come back around next season. So good luck to the XFL Markcast taking off, man, and take it easy, dude. Have a good one.
Wow.
What a
Hang
great.
on. Wow. I just want to revel in that. Cardale Jones promoting the Markcast. We got it. And if you want to go to XFL shop or xflshow.com/merch, we have an official XFL Markcast. Cardale Jones listens to the Markcast shirt available right now.
You know what people would call this, right?
What? So to give a little backstory, so we said last week on the show, I was looking online. I said, hey, Paul, Cardale Jones, former DC defender, lead quarterback. He's available on Cameo. It's like $40. I said, I think we should gamify it. We batted around a couple ideas and we said, hey, let's see if we can get Cardale Jones to do a plug for the Markcast. And so I reached out to Cardale and I filled out the thing. And I'm trying to look on here to see. Normally on Cameo, they say, hey, take you 3-4 days, whatever, they'll send it to you. How long do you think it took Cardale Jones from the time that I submitted my request to Cameo to have the Cameo come back to me?
90 minutes.
Nope.
Less?
Less.
An hour.
It was like 26 minutes.
I love it.
And not that, I host an XFL podcast, right? I mean, it's all relative here. But I think we need to get the XFL back in session because I think Cardale Jones is jonesing for a little something to do with his spare time.
Some coin.
Just something to do. I'm not saying he needs a coin. I mean, I'm sure Cardale is fine, but I'm just saying dude might have some energy that he's looking to let out on the field. And I mean, this is all love. This was all fun. I mean, Brandon Silvers is my QB. I got the signed shirt. So it's all love. It's all love. But yeah. So Cardale Jones, official Markcast Army. And I would like to think of Cardale Jones now as the patron saint of the Markcast. I'm thinking of shirts to make for that. So yeah. You said you wanted to see the original Cameo?
I would love to see the original Cameo.
Okay.
I think our viewers or our listeners would love to hear what you actually asked him to say.
Okay, so let's play it again. I got that one up here. Okay. So here's the original version that came from Cardale Jones via cameo.com.
Mark, what's up, man? It's Cardale Jones. Hey, man, just want to say congrats on getting that cast taken off, man, and take it easy now, dude. Try not to hurt yourself anymore, and thank you for being a fan of mine. Definitely my time in the XFL. Hopefully, I don't know, we'll see the thing come back around next season. So good luck to that. Good luck to recovery, man, and take it easy, dude, on that leg. Have a good one.
And so here again is the official Cardale Jones, XFL Markcast. And I want to start the show at least next week, but I think every week for a while. I think we should start the show with this plug.
What's up, man? It's Cardale Jones. Hey, man, just want to say congrats on getting the XFL Markcast taken off, man, and take it easy now, dude. Try not to hurt yourself anymore. Thank you for being a fan of mine. Definitely my time in the XFL. Hopefully, I don't know, we'll see the thing come back around next season. So good luck to the XFL Markcast taking off, man, and take it easy, dude. Have a good one.
And so my challenge to Cardale Jones is, and this is a true challenge, and I haven't ran this by you yet. Cardale, we're gonna tag him on, obviously, on Twitter. We're gonna blow this up. If Cardale Jones sends me a PO box, whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to be some crazy fan, but if he sends me a PO box, I will mail him a Cardale Jones listens to the Markcast shirt. And if he posts a photo with it, I'm going to donate $100 to a charity of his choosing. And
$100. I will match your 100. Let's do it even 250, 125 apiece.
I'm in.
Let's do it. 250 to your charity of your choice. Of course, we're not making that much revenue on the podcast, so we got to spare our budget a little bit. But we're going to donate $250 to Cardale's charity of choice, whatever it is. Again, if he follows Reid's instructions.
Yep. Cardale Jones, you just send me a P.O. box, whatever. It could be an office building. I'll send you a shirt. I get a photo with you wearing the shirt. We'll post it on the store. We'll post it on the podcast. $250 to a charity of your choosing. And that's a promise from the XFL Markcast.
Yes. I was surprised that Cardale didn't make at least a practice squad team for the NFL.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the big news today that we're talking about is all the the signings and cuts and near misses and man, it was crazy the other day on Twitter. I was trying to follow all the different XFL news writers, from the News Hub and Newsroom and XFL Press, all the guys just crazy covering all the news. Greg Parks, famously of PW Torch. I got him following him now, keeping us up to date on all the player transactions. So of
course, PW Torch, you would do that because you're a big Wade mark.
Yeah.
So
I tweeted at Greg. I said, "What do you think it would take for Wade Keller to do a VIP XFL podcast?" And he was basically like, "In your dreams." And I had it was the fat kid from Bad Santa where he's like finds out that like Santa isn't real and he's just crying. And that was the gif I posted back. I was happy about that.
You just felt like he had ate all your chocolates in your advent calendar at that point, right?
Yeah, that's what it was. when Billy Bob gets drunk and eats all that. Yeah, that's totally. Yeah, I was like, what scene is that from? Yeah, you're absolutely right. What did you think? Following you're a bigger NFL fan even than I. What were you thinking about kind of all the transactions and everything going on?
Well, it's becoming abundantly clear that the Los Angeles Chargers, which I still have a hard time accepting, and the Carolina Panthers are definite fans of XFL players because on their active rosters, they each have two players from the XFL. Of course, Carolina has PJ Walker and Colin Thompson, and they did end up cutting Cam Phillips, the wide receiver from the Roughnecks. But it seems like Carolina went a little bit heavy with XFL talent, which we like to see. That's the whole. I feel like that was more of the whole point of the XFL was kind of to feel like a developmental league, or maybe somewhere talent that wasn't quite NFL ready could go and sharpen their skills and maybe get a job. So we want to congratulate Colin Thompson, Donald Parham, PJ Walker, and Storm Norton. That's a great name, Storm Norton. I love that name.
And Parham's a beast, man. When I saw him play, the dude's like 21, like 7'4" or something. Like he's crazy. Look at
7'4".
Look at the height stats on Donald Parham.
Come on, not 7'4".
Google that. Dude's a giant. Dude could be in. Speaking of WWE, Donald Parham, he's got a future in the WWE if it doesn't work out for him in the playing football.
Dude, he's 6'8". That's like standard tight end height.
Dude's tall. He's got the arm span.
From Stetson University. Wow.
So my big question, big picture from all this is, there was like 15 players overall that came on, and then, they were on the practice squads. I mean, what did we think? Like, big picture, did the XFL work? Was it a success? 5 weeks, we got this many players on. I mean, you can be honest if you say no.
I think it did work. I mean, the mere fact that it was an entity that someone wanted to buy, someone with business acumen like Danny and The Rock, it did work, clearly. I mean, if it didn't work, there's no point in buying all of this stuff, And the fact that like you have how many people total? 13 on practice squads, 12 on practice squads. Yeah, 12 on practice squads, and then 4 on your active roster. I mean, crazier things have happened. I've seen people like there was a running back in Green Bay. I can't remember his name, but he was a beast. And before the season started, he was bagging groceries, and they got invited to the practice squad. And then he ended up being their starting running back come like week 8 or week 9. So any of these guys are going to get a shot. You don't want to see a talent like Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City go down, but if he does, you're going to see like a Jordan Tamu come up, the St. Louis quarterback come up and then, not be the starter, but be there as a backup. Just, God forbid anything else happen, but you don't want to see a talent like Patrick Mahomes, especially after signing that big, massive deal, go down. So, it's going to be interesting to see how many of these practice squad players come up. Again, we'll see.
Yeah, that was the biggest one to me, was Teamu and him not making it. I mean, I know he's on the practice squad, but I mean, again, just such a talent. And they always talk about the NFL need, is there a quarterback problem and finding, good guys and, the personalities and the people that lead the teams and all that. And I know that he's young, but I really was surprised that he didn't. I know he's on the practice squad, but I really thought that because he was one of the first ones that got snatched up right after the XFL went down.
That means that definitely means there was definite NFL eyes on him the entire time, and I think that's what also makes XFL a success, is because the NFL's not playing. You could have these, GMs and coaches watch the games and go, okay, maybe there's something in this kid that we like to see, and we could bring him in, for a training camp. And if there's something there in training camp that we can, it's little risk for an NFL team to watch someone else work out and play in game scenarios without spending a dime. That's the takeaway from this. So.
Speaking of, and I don't know, I probably didn't save it onto our list of things to talk about, and that's my bad. There was a story that came out this week, and he was talking about, someone tweeted it was like the NFL and the different scouts that were watching like the practice squads, and they had listed like the XFL as like one of the, like had written in the tweet, like, hey, like there's also XFL scouts here. And there was all this controversy online talking about, well, are there, what's going on? Are there XFL scouts? And Greg Parks talked a lot about it on his Twitter, and I think the idea was that maybe there's some guys that had been on the XFL, that they're kind of just watching the calls with everybody else, in anticipation of getting brought back on, because obviously right now no one really is employed by the XFL. But of course, like, speculation went out. Oh my gosh, that must mean that they have all these people signed. And, like we said before, with all the coaches and, supposedly everybody last week was going to find out, or 2 weeks ago, all the coaches were going to find out, and, literally nothing's come from it. But it's interesting, once you're in the game, I think you want to be in the game. And so a lot of these guys, it would make sense that they would be keeping an eye out for talent, and using connections they had to watch, tape and stuff.
Did I read that right? That some of the players or some of the coaches or some of the employees went private about their social media apps? Was I reading that correctly, or was that?
I don't know which article that is.
Okay. Maybe I'm reading something that was old. I think it was posted on one of the Facebook boards by Van, friend of the show, Van. Maybe he posted something about that, where some of these people were going private and being really secretive about.
Well, there just hasn't been a lot of talk. Yeah, that was Van's hypothesis, was that a lot of the teams and players, if you're looking to get back in the league right now, you'd probably just shut your mouth and not be out doing stuff you shouldn't be doing. If you were someone, because like no one's heard anything from like any of the Seattle guys since all this went down in April, except for a couple of interviews. I know that I think News Hub, I haven't listened to their episode this week yet, but I know that they had an interview with the Dragons, the XFL Dragons kicker. And I know that there's obviously some players coming out and doing interviews, but for the most part, like the support staff and everything, they're not doing too much chatting.
So we discussed it recently about a new commissioner for the XFL, and we talked in depth about Jeffrey Pollock, but there were some other names that were thrown out there.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to look at this article I sent over?
I did. And I think Bill Polian is a little bit too old possibly for this. I know he did co-found the Alliance of American Football, the AAF, which was more of a disaster than the XFL, for being completely honest. But I think he's still too old for this kind of like a Jeffrey Pollock is younger, and Bill Polian's been around. You can't argue his experience. He was the general manager of the Buffalo Bills during their run where they went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost. So he clearly understands the game of football, but that was 30 years ago. I'm sorry. 30 years ago, he was the general manager of the Bills, and you don't get a general manager job being, well, now you do in baseball. But in football back in those days, you didn't just walk in as a 35-year-old kid and get a general manager gig. You had to be like at least 45, 50. So now you have to wonder, like, he's got to be 75, 80 now. So there's just, I don't see Bill Polian being a good fit, honestly. Doug Whaley, I'm kind of familiar with. He was also a general manager of the Buffalo Bills. Seems like a lot of general managers for the Buffalo Bills are being thrown up as names for this.
Well, and this was, I was going to plug Jai Noakes, is that I see him on Twitter all the time trying to, it's one of those things where you see the names and then you try to say them out loud. But a great article from News Hub, really doing a good job. I tell the writers and Mike Mitchell and everybody else, I go, you guys are doing God's work to give us content to talk about, because you know that I'm not doing that research. So, God bless them for doing this and putting together this, like I said, the XFL News Hub, talking about the next commissioner of the XFL. It was a good read.
That, of course, John McKay Jr. was also listed in their article here. And I don't know if you want anybody tied to XFL 1.0. I don't think you want that. So, I mean, I don't think there's any other choice but Jeffrey Pollock here. And I said that before. He was already involved in XFL 2.0. So it's probably best you just stick with what works, because it did work. It did work.
Without, and like I said, my knowledge of upper management in a lot of these football leagues is a little sparse. I just, as a fan and as someone, a fan of the XFL, what are you looking for in whoever they bring in? What are some traits, or what are some, what do you want to see with someone that's the next commissioner of this league?
So what do I want to see? Yeah. I want to see them take what they did right. I don't think they did much that was wrong. I mean, other than I think the Guardians played in the wrong stadium. I think that was a bad choice. When you have Seattle playing in CenturyLink and they can sell that thing out pretty much. You have St. Louis playing in the Dome and they can sell that thing out because they don't have an NFL team anymore. It really didn't make much sense to put, for example, DC being at Audi Field was perfect. It was a way to cater to the soccer crowd. You also had LA playing at Dignity Health Sports Park, whatever they're calling it this year, where the Galaxy play and the LA Chargers played last season, because LA Chargers are, of course, moving into SoFi Stadium, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out the video from SoFi Stadium where WrestleMania 36, 37.
It's going to be sick, man.
If they even hold WrestleMania.
Well, Dorothy was asking me about that because she goes, because I think we were talking about, something came up about SoFi. I can't remember what we were talking about. And she goes, well, you said on the Markcast that you were not going to give Vince money anymore. And I said, I know, and I haven't. But SoFi. So I'm like, well, maybe if maybe I'll get like a third party ticket from someone and then give them my money, right? So it's like 2 degrees, because I do think we got to check it out if Mania is at SoFi. I mean, that's just
and there's also that. I mean, when we went to New Orleans, some of the best shows we went to were shows that WWE was running. Impact Wrestling show was great. And mainly that's because we were belligerent, drunk people. But it was a fun time at the Impact Wrestling show in New Orleans. And that was something that, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla is set up back here in LA. It's their market. Like the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla show, whoever's that show's going to be loaded with surprises when WrestleMania comes here. So praying that everyone can wear a mask so we can get back to life. Please don't make this political anymore. I just want to eat and go to movie theaters. I'm kind of getting upset.
Speaking of masks, you can get some good masks.
Well, I know where the GM of the Washington Nationals didn't get a mask. Was it the Nationals? Yeah, it was the Nationals, right?
Oh, I want to talk about that too. I was going to plug xflshow.com/merch. We've got we've got white and black gator masks. I have mine on order. I'm so excited. My black one. I'll wear it everywhere. I don't care. I'm a wedding videographer. I just need something black. It's no worse than the stupid bandana I'm wearing now. And then we have a white, like a mask. So we have a mask, and then we have a white and the black gator mask, and they're really look nice. So I'm very excited to have that. But that is a serious. If you need a mask and you want something that's cool to wear, we have that.
Order one there. Why not?
But yeah, I want to talk about this freaking MLB thing. I see this on Twitter. I see this from your account. We're throwing players throwing GMs out of the game. What is going on here, Paul?
For not wearing a mask. Okay. this is the problem with no fans being in the ballpark, is if there was fans in the ballpark, they could, yell and drown out a GM running his mouth about how terrible the umpires are. I've always felt that Major League umpires end up being on the wrong side of making the game about them. And Joe West is a definite one that sticks out for me, that makes the game about him. Angel Hernandez is also one of them. I don't even know why Angel has a job still. He is that daft, if I could say it as nicely as possible. So Joe West, apparently Mike Rizzo from the Nationals, the GM there, wasn't wearing a mask and said some unflattering things about the officiating. And Joe West threw him out of the game. It was, I don't know what happened.
You're down. You're out.
Wow, somebody's getting kicked out. Hunter Wendelstedt sees somebody in the upper deck.
It was Hunter Wendelstedt, but at the same time, Joe West is the chief crew, and he is the president of the MLB Umpires Association. And he was like, we're going to get security, and we're going to get you removed. You're talking about the GM of the Nationals in Washington, and you want him thrown out?
When he was sitting up, like it was like the press box was to himself. It's like, what do you are you that worried about it?
And he said not wearing a mask. Bro, he was by himself. 1, 2, you know what the real reason he was ejected was? Because he was calling out the nonsense that was probably going on the field. We all have issues with umpires. They're human, and they make a lot of mistakes. The umpires never own their mistakes, and it's you get fined if you criticize umpires. And in referees, every single sport league, if you criticize officials publicly, you're getting fined. So the umpires almost have this immunity where they can just make mistakes, double down on them, and then never like get punished for what they do.
Could you imagine them trying to throw Vince McMahon out of an XFL game for not having the mask?
That'd be great. That would be amazing.
I could see that. Fire.
Oh, Vince isn't on the Forbes 400 anymore, I saw.
Yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about that made me laugh. I mean, again, we famously have a hashtag Fire Vince shirt on the store, but that was great. And I will never, and even people, the comments in the article, I will never understand why he didn't just ride this XFL thing out. To the day I die, I'll never understand why he didn't just furlough all this. But they said, yeah, basically like all the, the COVID and canceling all the events. And then with the, the XFL and the money he put into that and it dropped him. They said he was one of top 10 notable billionaires that didn't make the list. And he was one of them.
But at the same time, like Mick Foley pointed it out, because the traveling costs have gone down and everything for production, the WWE had one of the most profitable quarters in history. So I don't understand how this correlates, because if the WWE's making, I understand that it's not a sole proprietorship, it's a publicly traded company. But if the WWE's profitable, that should drive the stock price up, therefore driving Vince's bank account up. In theory, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I just think, and we've talked about it before on here, I even know that Mark at the News Hub talked about it, where if Vince would have just like put on hold, and maybe we could have done something in October or something and, finish up the league. But then it was such a harsh, just, shutdown of everything. And I'll never, as long as I go, I'll never understand what the deal was with that.
Well, I think it was just a harsh shutdown of the league because he might have not wanted to play, pay Oliver Luck money. Maybe that was a situation. I don't, I couldn't tell you.
Oliver Luck, my scorning me as my ex-girlfriend online, posting photos like the ESPN interview he did last week. Yeah, but what's Vince still owned on here? I was trying to pull up the article. 400 richest. He's a billionaire, just not a top 400 billionaire. Must be a tough life we live.
Tough, man. And I think he's going to lose a lot of sleep at night for not being a Forbes 400 or whatever it is billionaire, but he's still a billionaire. I mean, yes. I wouldn't trade places with him because, we've had our criticisms of him, but I would definitely trade bank accounts with him.
Yeah, it said he spent, this is according to the article, $200 million on the league. And that said that the live events slid 30% in the first 7 months of the year. But also that's just because WWE has sucked like the last, I mean, part of it is just a decline anyway, let alone the COVID, but just like, just how poor the product's been lately. So maybe Vince was better off getting out of the XFL and focusing on,
Well, I mean, we've discussed, privately and maybe publicly that he's kind of lost touch with the wrestling business. There's a lot of things where, for example, when he saw the Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt cinematic match, he was like, I don't get this. And everybody was like, this is amazing. And Vince is like, if this is what's happening now, I'm out of touch. Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
you are out of touch. So, I mean, it comes down to a point where maybe Vince just should maybe step away.
Yeah.
So we can feel a little bit cleaner about attending WWE events and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that being said, I think it's going to cover everything. Is there anything you wanted to cover else besides that?
I think we covered a lot. Again, we've got the merch side up. We've got the podcast reviews, always doing that. Cardale Jones, if you're listening, like I said, tweet with the shirt. We'll get that. But we're really looking for some more news coming out. But like I said, God bless all the XFL writers on all the sites and XFL Newsroom and everybody else for really doing the Lord's work and putting some content in our hands. Because it's, hopefully, I mean, what are you thinking here? Rock's on the mend. NFL starting. Obviously, we're going to see. Do you think the XFL is waiting to kind of like see how the first week or two go here before they make any moves? I mean, what do you think timeline wise for us having zero knowledge at all, but just kind of general, like I said, general XFL observations? What do you think is coming next for the league?
I don't think they're playing things based on how things work with the NFL. I think they're operating independently, thinking independently. And again, I disagree with Chad Johnson when he said that the NFL could do a bubble. The XFL could do a bubble way easier than the NFL could. I think they're plotting their own game plan, and they're being careful, and they're not letting much stuff out, which is good. Because anytime you have anything slip out, there's always going to be critics. There's always going to be yapping mouths and going, I don't know if there's always going to be some criticism of anything that leaks out. So I think they're playing it close to the chest. And we're dying to hear more. We want to know more. We want to know what their plan is. And we want to know if we're going to get football back in XFL football, for that matter, in 2021, because I'm not optimistic about it. If NFL season, if I'm being honest with you, there's too many teams, there's too many players. I'm not optimistic, but I hope they prove me wrong.
Yeah, I got asked to be in the XFL Fantasy League by this team of wedding vendors. And I was like, first off,
XFL Fantasy League or NFL?
NFL. And I said, first off, I'll probably destroy your league, right? Just with like horrible takes.
Or maybe you'll be the one person that everybody looks forward to playing because you'll lose.
Well, that could be. But then also, I don't know if it's making it the whole time. So I go, why the heck am I going to spend, a week? I mean, we're busy. We got the Markcast. You got your stuff. I got my stuff. I'm like, I can't do this other thing. And then if the league crumbles in, 3 weeks, or they end up going on hiatus, or doubling up game. I don't know. To me, it just seems like a mess. Speaking of The Rock in the league, he did, I think Bleacher Report or somebody had a big post about PJ Walker and like, that's what the XFL means. And that's what it means to succeed. And The Rock tweeted that, retweeted and said like, that's why I bought it, man. That's why I bought it. And I tweeted at The Rock, I said, let's talk more action, buddy. And then I said, JK, don't beat me up. But I do think
did you use a verified account to tweet The Rock that?
No, I think I retweeted with my verified account, though. You got to get a little extra juice on some of those. So maybe we'll do it.
Those verified accounts, they send notifications to other verified. They're like, hey, ding, someone talked to you that has a verified account. So
we'll be tweeting at Cardale Jones with the verified account. Get some love on
this. We're doing. Hopefully he will do that. Again, $250 to the charity of his choice for taking a picture with the shirt that says Cardale Jones listens to the XFL Markcast. Do you worry that he's going to be upset with what you did with his cameo? You worry at all?
No, I hope not. Again, it's all love. And like I said, I host the XFL podcast. I got, I'm not one to judge.
You're a mark.
It's the Markcast. I'm not one to judge. God bless the guy for even taking the time, sending a well wish to my brother Mark with the broken leg in the cast. We're going to have to find someone else now. I didn't have time this week to look, but I want to find our next victim.
Yeah, victim. Exactly. That's exactly what you call him.
But no, God bless Cardale Jones for doing that. And I really appreciate it. But yeah, I want to use that. I want the episode of this podcast to be Cardale Jones listens to the Markcast ? That's the name of the episode.
Okay, we're naming it now. Again, download, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. We need all those ratings we can get. We really appreciate you listening, and we'll talk to you next week right here on the XFL Markcast. See ya.
RateThisPodcast.com/XFL. Thanks.